At 18 years old, I decided I didn't want to have a rent or a mortgage payment for the rest of my life, so I decided to build a tiny house myself, and 5 years later, here we are. Let me show you guys around. This is my tiny house kitchen. It's very condensed, it's very small, which I really love because not only is it easy to clean, it's also very functional because basically I have everything within an arm's width. And then I also really love my stovetop. It's really quick to turn on. It's a 2-burner little stove. It's 110 volts too, so it's really nice for the electrical aspect when we built that out for the whole tiny house, since, you know, we did everything myself. And then not to mention, most of these materials were also recycled from old houses. These are actually tiles that people would put like as flooring. And so I decided to make it into a whole countertop for my kitchen. We have the sink, dishes, coffee, and of course over here I wanted a little bit of separation from the bathroom, which we'll get into, which kind of led to this top open fridge. My microwave up here and my air fryer, they're all very out of the way so I can keep a very clean and neat space while also being functional and very easy to use. So for the kitchen, I wanted to make sure I had enough functioning storage just for the little stuff that I really needed every day. So I have most of my kitchen stuff that I need to cook with down here because it's very easy access, not only from the sink, but from the stovetop. And then I also have most of my dishware, and this is a pull-out drawer, so it makes it really easy to basically grab anything I need, especially when hosting guests. And then as we work over here, I have just a little pull-out garbage because I didn't want it in the way. And then basically the design for this kitchen was to make it for one person. So ideally I wanted to have this overhang so I could kind of use this as my dining space because it's very easy to clean. So a lot of people question why the cabinets are so tall, and although I am a pretty tall person, I actually built the design of the tiny house around the windows because I knew it was going to be the most expensive part of the build. And essentially I wanted to have an awning window here just to incorporate the indoor-outdoor living, and also too it's a good exhaust for the stovetop. So these cabinets basically had to go all the way up. And of course I can still reach the bottom shelves, but if I ever need anything from up there, which is stuff that I don't really use on the regular, I just pull up a little stool and I have access to everything up top. And also I feel like it makes the space look a lot bigger because you have all this open space. And then I decided to add these in for a little extra touch in terms of design. And then a couple steps away from the kitchen, we have my living room, which also functions as my office, my closet, and a second bedroom if I ever have guests over. So starting off on this side right here, we have a full custom built couch that pulls out into a full queen size bed. And then above it, you'll see that I have a projector in case I ever want to have a movie night. So it was really important for me to have a very cozy space just for me to relax during the day. And also too, you'll notice that there's like a lot of window light, which was very, very important, especially because I make content regularly, so it was really important to have a lot of natural light. And I also think with the condensed space, it makes the space feel a lot bigger when you incorporate that indoor-outdoor living. And then a recent addition to the space right here is kind of my little office area. So this always was just very negative and empty space. I know, crazy to say in a tiny house. So basically this is just like my little office area, and I have a table here that folds out so that when I'm working, I can also separate the space into different functions. And that way I don't feel like I'm, you know, relaxing watching a movie while I'm working from home. I actually have my dedicated space for that. And then under the couch, it was really important for me to have a ton of storage because if I had just bought a couch and put it here, I wouldn't have any of that. So when I first built the tiny house, the initial concept was basically just for the house itself. But after I started building it, I really wanted to incorporate an outdoor space with an outdoor patio. And so I figured I wanted to put in sliding glass doors when I did have the time and money to build out that patio. And they were also a lot cheaper than buying a massive 6x6 window. So these were for free from Facebook Marketplace. A lot of the materials that I used in the tiny house is recycled or donated stuff. So this completely opens into the outside area, and also too, when I have the curtains open, it makes it feel like the space is very big, but I'm still inside and in the air conditioning. Moving on from the living room, and the reason why it was kind of cut a little short, if you will, is because of these 3 cabinets, which also serve as my staircase to get up to the loft. And when building this, the most important thing for me was clothes and shoe storage, because surprisingly, I have quite a bit of shoes and I had to make them all fit. I think the most I've had in here was about 36 pairs. And that's just in this rack alone. You'll kind of see that there's a cutout on the bottom corner for the wheel well down there. Still managed to fit a pair of sandals down there. We don't waste any space in here. But I felt like I could have squeezed some more space in here, and especially because I didn't really think out a place to put my jewelry, I wanted to add this little shoulder in so that way I kind of had everything on display. When I built this, I was 18 years old, no construction experience whatsoever except a helping hand from my dad and a couple of other friends. I like 3D drew it out on some internet website, but once we actually executed it, there were a lot of little things that we had to finagle with, so it doesn't work 100%, but it does get the job done. It just doesn't close as easily. But you can see it's a very smooth open, and the reason that I can have all of this closed on here is because there's wheels on the bottom. So you can see there's tracks here that kind of help it keep in shape, which was something that we had to add. So this was very much a trial and error closet. It works and it fits, and there's probably like 300 pounds of clothing in this closet alone. So we have the biggest cabinet of them all. And this one houses all of my long sleeve shirts and winter wear. Mind you, these are most of the clothing that I also don't wear on the day-to-day, so I'm not opening these on the daily. It's really more if I'm filming videos or if I'm going out. It takes me like an extra 30 seconds to close the closet. But hey, I didn't compromise on getting rid of anything, which maybe I should have, but it fits. This is the bottom of the staircase separate from the clothing unit. Originally, these were supposed to be full-sized, exactly like these. After building them out, I kind of hated how they looked because this was going to be a half step and then this was going to be another half step. And so I kind of scrapped that idea, decided to go to IKEA and invest in some nicer cabinets. So this whole drawer pulls out. It is a half drawer, and this is some of my makeup that I do. And then I also can pull out this little top drawer. This is actually a kitchen set, I believe, for like kitchen utensils, but clearly I have more space for makeup than kitchenware. As I built the tiny house, a lot of things kind of come as you go and you see what you need as you're building it. So I absolutely love how this came out. I think it was one of my favorite parts of the build. And then on top of the staircases, you'll also see that it is luxury vinyl plank. So every stair nose that you see throughout the tiny house was hand bent by me with a heat gun. I wanted like a cohesive waterfall look, and so these were all custom made for my staircase specifically. So this is kind of the whole theme with the staircase. I wanted it to serve as like a full walk-in closet get ready area, and I definitely think that I accomplished that while tweaking things through the years. Growing up in a Brazilian household, we're used to seeing a lot of knickknacks around the house and just stuff that you don't necessarily need. I did not want any of that. I kind of began this obsession with tiny houses long in my high school years. One day on YouTube, I began doom scrolling. It was 2 a.m. and I ran into a tiny house video, became absolutely obsessed with the idea, and I drew probably like 200 paper versions of different tiny houses that I would love to have one day. And then over the years, I actually did my end of year high school project on tiny houses because of the sustainability factor, the affordability factor, and just like the minimalism aspect overall, because I feel like I'm not really tied to anything because it's also small and I can take it with me anywhere. And after all of that, I finally decided to pull the trigger and purchase the trailers so I could officially start my build. So when I first started building my tiny house, I was 18, so I didn't necessarily have savings to build something extravagant, something nice, something with brand new items inside. So the main focus of it was trying to keep it as affordable and cost effective as possible while also maintaining like my standards, which I really like that clean, elegant, and just nice look. Half of the whole build, the materials were actually either gifted, donated, or outsourced from literal garbage bins. And the reason that it took me 3 years to build as well is mainly because as I was saving up, I was purchasing, you know, a new countertop or maybe my AC unit. So it kind of took a while not only to learn how to do things and actually build them, but also to save up enough money so I would be able to buy things, you know, of decent quality. And for the most part, what I spent with the tiny house in total, including all of like my furniture and stuff, is roughly about $20,000. By the time I was 21, it was starting to get ready, and my neighbor from my mom's across the street actually had an RV spot in their yard. I offered to rent it from them, so I would live across the street from my mom for a couple months until I ended up looking at farmhouses. mainly because I could get a mortgage for a house that's on a big plot of land. So it made it really easy to be able to not only purchase space to put my tiny house, but also have a house where I could get a mortgage for it. And of course, have that passive income coming in too, because now it's a rental. I ended up purchasing a little farmhouse with an acre lot. And then we parked the tiny house and I have my own little space. I have my tenant and they have their little space. And I actually built a second tiny house, which is now rented out for another little space. So we're very spread out and we all love the little community we have going on here. Welcome to my tiny house bathroom. If I did have an extra 2 feet of space, it would go here, but I made it work with what I had when I was 18. So again, recycled cabinet for the little vanity. I wanted everything to be very condensed and small, but still functional. So we have a very small sink. So this actually used to be like a wine rack, but I used it as a towel rack. So I just fold them up and it looks really neat once it's full. This was also an afterthought. I just really felt like a wall was a waste of space that I wasn't using. This was definitely one of the best additions because I really don't know where I would have put all of this stuff if it wasn't for this little nook that I cut out of a wall space that wouldn't have been there. All right, and now we're gonna flip around to the shower. This is my tiny shoebox shower. I actually really like it. It's functional. It is a little small. Again, with the space thing, it would have been nice to have at least an extra like 6 inches, if that, to this shower. This is one of those pre-made fiberglass showers that I bought. It was the most affordable thing that I could find at the time. I really wanted to do like a custom like black tile with marble looking on this. That was not in the budget, so I kind of compromised for this, but I did overspend for my little glass door, which to me, not only does it keep water inside the shower, but also too, I think it makes the space look a little more luxurious without having to spend a lot more money. And again, very functional. I have enough storage here for all of my things. And yeah, that's pretty much my whole shower. Gets the job done. So this is the entryway to my house, and I think for me it was really important to kind of keep it as its own little separate space as much as we are working with roughly 100 square feet in here. So I wanted the staircase to kind of lead up from here just because I feel like, you know, it's its own little isolated space. And then of course we have kind of this little area. This was a complete afterthought to the tiny house. I bought this little dresser because it kind of matched the recycled kitchen cabinets that I had, and it's just used basically for more clothes storage. And then this mirror was actually gifted to me by one of my clients that I used to help, and I just thought it was really pretty. It doesn't really match the aesthetic of the tiny house, but I don't know, sometimes things don't need to match and I just love it, so I put it in here. And then these shelves actually were added on only a couple months ago because I started kind of gaining a little bit of a book collection. And this little plant kind of just gives that cascading waterfall look, and I also think it brings some greenery into the tiny house. This was a recycled door that I bought with all of the windows and doors to the house. They were all ripped out of old projects, so I'm pretty sure this is like an RV door or a patio door or something, and it's a steel metal door. It has like the double window, which was really important to me because again, the natural lighting versus just like a full slated door. And then we have like space here too for my shoes and just to put extra stuff that I use every day. And now I'm gonna show you guys my loft, which is kind of not just a loft, it also serves as a second office space, which originally was not downstairs. So basically when I built this out, it was really important for me to have a ton of headspace for the living room. I didn't want it to feel very claustrophobic at all. So of course it was very exact to the measurement in the sense of like the loft height itself, because I can easily sit up there, have enough headroom over my head to like sit up if I need to and read a book. And then also too, of course, getting a mattress that is a little bit thinner kind of helped with that. So instead of getting a full size mattress, I got a 3-inch memory foam, and it is like sleeping on a cloud, and I absolutely love it. And it also serves the purpose of giving me more headspace. This little shelf unit right here probably just looks like a shelf so you don't fall from over the loft, but it's actually meant for you to sit right over the edge, and you can kind of have your legs hanging down. And this is a desk, and then on either side I custom built these little units. So there are little drawers kind of for you to just put some notebooks and things, but this was planned out and I knew exactly how I wanted this to go, and I think it definitely came out exactly what I had envisioned. If I didn't have to do a loft, I absolutely love the design styles where people have a gooseneck. You know, you still have stairs for that, but I do think it's a lot more functional for most people's day-to-day. I absolutely love my loft. This is a 20-foot by an 8-foot tiny house, so it is, I would say, on the smaller side compared to a lot of other people's. And if I had to make it any bigger, not only the bathroom, I would definitely add an extension to this back part and have a master bedroom, basically the size of the living room after the living room. After building my own tiny house and living tiny for the last year, I've learned that material things are not really what it's about. And thankfully, because I've downsized so much and again, condensed my expenses and just my overall livelihood into 100 square feet of space, I feel like just a free being, and I'm able to go out and travel and not have to worry about, you know, spending money on a mortgage payment or rent. And of course, with the cash flow that I produce on the property, it helps fund all of that. And just living frugally, ultimately, I feel like you can enjoy things a lot more. And living tiny has really just brought me a ton of happiness. And not only having built it with my family, friends, my dad, my mom, my brother, everybody who helped build it, I just always cherish it. And I feel like the tiny house is definitely a great representation, not only of me, but everybody who helped build the tiny house and just the amount of love that was poured into it. If you guys want to see more of me and my real estate investing, what I do, you guys can follow me on Beauty and a Builder on all social platforms. Thank you guys for coming to tour my house. Bye.